Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
This has been one on all of the drivers' calendars as one to watch out for in the 2024 Majors Series. Hello and welcome to the Nürburgring. This is the 1967 German Grand Prix here on SimSpeed TV, round number 3 of the 2024 Majors Series. Hello everyone, I am Jay Kennedy, and alongside me for the ride for this absolutely thrilling race coming up, Lynn Kitchlow. Lynn, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. As I said, one the drivers have been looking forward to on the calendar, not necessarily because it's going to be fun, but it's going to be hard work and it is going to be very, very rewarding when they get to the end.
You're absolutely right, Jade. We go from the last round, the Intimidator, the super speedway, high speeds, close quarters combat, and you travel back in time. So 60 plus years to 1967. We're taking away all of the downforce, all of the durability, but we're going to put all of the skill in the driver's hands this afternoon and evening, at least on the East Coast right here.
Yep. It's all about skill. I've just been watching in the background, and this is the skill we're talking about. Have a look at that, all 4 wheels off the ground. There's going to be plenty of moments where drivers are in mid-air out on track, so make sure you stay with it. It's going to be one heck of a day of racing. But before we get into the racing, let's have a quick look at the championship, because we were just talking about it before. When we get to the teams championship, it is incredibly close. At the moment, Christian Challoner leads the way with the win in round 1. A decent result at Daytona. Dallas Pataska and Nathan Dowd, Tom Abramatis and Kevin Hill rounding out the top 5 in that one. No real surprises in that at this stage, and of course it is very early on as well. Going to see that shuffle around a fair bit as the championship progresses. The Legends Championship, this surprises me a little bit. Reigning champion for the Pacific region, 3-time champion Dan Stevens way back in 8th position. That does surprise me.
It's a little bit surprising, but you also have to think about the first 2 rounds that we've had. We started out with the Predator. That's a huge field to begin with, and then you move right into the Intimidator, where luck really can play into a factor, but still very early on in the season. We haven't even gotten far enough along to where the drop leaks will come into play, which can also shuffle the field around a little bit, being able to drop your lowest results in both the road and the oval side. So still a long way to go. Plenty of good tracks, I think, for him coming up.
Yeah. And he also, as you said, that first round, did pick the wrong car. We did see a few drivers have some trouble. There was the LMP2 was the car that seemed to be a bit weaker over the race distance, and everyone in that car had a little bit of trouble, and then missed top split the Daytona 500. Kevin Hill has done very, very well. He's in the top 5 overall in the championship. So that's an amazing effort to be so high up in the overall championship as one of the Legends drivers. But this is the one that we were talking about before we kicked off the show. Have a look how tight this team's championship is. If we stay this close the whole way through, how amazing is this going to be?
They're going to be fighting all the way to the end for the Formula Majors race at the very end of the season. Evolve Sim Sports with a full stack, currently holding their own against the Mega Racing team, who've only had just 2 drivers the last round, but now they've got 3 with the return of Austin O'Neill, I believe. So we'll see at the end where these guys stack up. finishing out the top 5. Sector 5 is having a very good showing this season, followed by Middle Finger Racing and the secondary Evolve Sim Sports team, the Canadians, I believe. I believe that's what the is for.
That would make sense.
It's an interesting one, but not nearly as interesting as, say, Dog Bear Bark or Udog's Lola. I mean, there's a llama involved there, so yay.
No, of course, that team's championship, they have swapped position at the top as well. Mega was leading after round 1, now Evolve leading after round 2. As always, in the major series, we're supporting a charity, and this round we are supporting Beyond Blue, a mental health charity here in Australia, supporting people with mental health issues in Australia and New Zealand. If you want to get involved and help out with Beyond Blue, absolutely fantastic charity. Head to beyondblue.org.au. Let's talk about what we're actually doing today, though, because this is a race replicating the 1967 German Grand Prix around the Nürburgring. 15 laps. Doesn't sound like much, but it's still a very, very long race in a car that will give you a literal workout for one lap around this track. 15 is going to be a very, very tough ask. Potential pit stops probably going to come down, as we were talking about before, as to whether you've had an incident or not. That's the only reason you'd really pit. You can make it on fuel, you can make it on tyres. Of course, the car does improve if you do take a pit stop halfway through, and everyone does have that one spare car available.
As you said, 15 laps does not sound like a lot, but this is the last titan of the Grand Prix circuits. This is the Nürburgring Nordschleife. This is perhaps one of the last remaining long circuits that any mere mortal can come on and drive, and with nearly 22 plus kilometers of track to circumnavigate every time, still a very long race that as you mentioned. And of course, any little mistake, especially in these vehicles that we're racing this evening, will send you onto the tow truck for a long wait to get your spare car out.
Yeah, that's 100% true. You do have a long wait to get your car repaired, and long wait to get the tow truck back. And if you do get very, very minor damage, these cars crumble very, very quickly as well. The old school design of these cars means that they don't have the strongest suspension. Sure, they will take a tiny little hit, but geez, they are very, very difficult to drive if you do get that little bit of contact. As we said before as well, the amount of air that these drivers will get over the smallest bumps at this circuit, which there are plenty, will catch some drivers out throughout this race. Only 24 drivers in our top split field, but I don't think we'd want any more than that, because it could end up with chaos and mayhem if we had any more.
Absolutely. We are driving the Lotus 49 this evening. It is a 3-liter V8, naturally aspirated, making about 400 brake horsepower. And as you're looking at it on the screen right now, there is nothing in regards to aerodynamic features on this vehicle at this particular point. This is still before the Aero Wars, the first set, as they unleashed several years later, and that means that this vehicle is going to be very, very unstable across a lot of these bumps without something to push him back down into the ground, as we are on board with Ross Banfield taking a look. And also, open face helmets. It's a bit of a throwback.
I love that.
Yeah, it's an absolutely neat little Easter egg that comes included with this vehicle on the iRacing service. And just to give you a sense of the speed that these guys are doing, the pole speed for the actual 1967 German Grand Prix was a little over 8 minutes. Granted, that included a little extra section at the start-finish line, but these guys have been lapping around at a minimum 6 minutes 48 seconds, nearly 2 minutes faster than what they were doing in real life. Of course, that comes down to the lack of risk of bodily harm unless you're running a direct drive wheel in some of these cases, but still, it's a very, very quick combination here.
As you can see, the top speed here for Banfield just coming up over the rise. We'll hit about 320 kilometers an hour, potentially. No, he's already eased out of the throttle, 312, so it's 195-ish miles an hour. With draft, though, we've seen drivers get up over 320 kilometers an hour, so it is incredibly quick, and I would not have driven these cars back in the day at the racetrack at full speed. There is no way you would have ever have seen me drive one of these.
Certainly not at full anger because, I mean, look at it. There's barely any camber involved either. I think the maximum amount of camber is like negative half a degree. That is not much at all to be riding around on. So, in addition to that, the vehicle is also running bias ply tires. So, if you get those rear tires angry ever so slightly, you'll have that tread bow up a little bit. That also reduces grip, and it could be quite hazardous to your health if you make it angry early on. As we see Christian Challenger take his way, I believe that was the second of the little concrete hairpins running around. If I'm looking at my map right,
yes, that was the first carousel. Got up to the mini carousel, but there is one point coming up that I think is probably the second most exciting part of the track. Now, just up here is the jump, which cars that go a lot, well, probably about the same speed, but have a lot more aerodynamic forces, definitely get airborne over. And you just see their Challenger's actually eased out a little bit, coming up to what we would know as the jump around, I think it's just up here somewhere, is it not? But definitely get a lot more, yeah, no, I've already passed it. A lot more air in these cars than you get at other in other cars with the lack of aero. So keep your eyes on the lack of wheels touching the ground throughout today's racing.
Something you don't hear very often when they do take flip flats is you're going to be braking to as you approach it, and then you might give it a little bit of gas while the car is in the air. You use the rotational force of the wheels to set the car down as evenly as possible, so that way you can make the right-hander that is immediately following the airborne section.
We're about 30 seconds away from getting this race started, not far away at all, and of course, qualifying throughout the week. The practice sessions doubled as qualifying sessions this week, just due to the nature of the circuit. No point having separate for each, and just run them both as the same. And I think that's probably the perfect way to do it for this event. It's being round 3 of the series. Plenty of other cool races coming up. If you haven't looked at what's coming up in the Major Series, head to themajorseries.com and get yourself involved. Or the schedule is actually about to pop up on the ticker at the bottom of your screen as well. So I'm looking forward to the next round. It'll be one of my favourites. One of my favourite cars around one of my favourite tracks. But we'll go through the starting grid in just a moment, because it is a very, very packed grid of the who's who within this series.
It is a packed grid, and it's also a very short countdown. Straight up standing start right at the exit of pit road right here. As we see right here, Ross Banfield setting the world record, at least on Garage 61, for this car at a 6-minute 32.1. Seb Trixier starts alongside a Ringer. Next row, Christian Challenger, Mega Race Team with Nathan Dowd from Sector 5 fills out row number 2. Moving right along, keep it going. Trevor Favorsky, Evolve Sim Sports alongside Travis Wardling. Wasn't expecting Travis to show up, but he managed to make it happen. Justin Morton in the Fusion Gold Pacific car alongside Kevin Hill with Evolve Sim Sports. Brian Bennett in Sector 5 alongside Lyndon Swaby, 2 Sector 5 cars, 1 Pro, 1 Sport. Next, Dallas Pataska in the independent entry from the Midwest alongside Austin O'Neill. Followed closely behind by Stephen Verwine, David Gargano Jr., 2 Evolve Sim Sport cars right there. Add another one with Jordan Bazuzli and Christian Abate from the Mega Racing Team, a 3rd entry right there, I believe. Keep it going. Kevin Santana and Austin Peterson rounds out that little section as we get the green flag underway right here.
And Tixier's got a great start. He's launched away and got ahead of Banfield. A couple of drivers have opted to start from pit lane, those being Steven, Santos and Santana. No surprises that we've had some drivers start back there. Good way to keep out of trouble, but relatively clean start. Everyone has made it through the first few turns safely. It's Tixier now leads the field. Banfield trying to get position back. Is that Brian Bennett?
Yep. Unfortunately, Bennett has gone off cold tires right there. Heavy fuel load, might not have expected it, but it kind of looks like he got away from it. As we move our way around, the first cars are about to hit the jump. Here is Flip Flats in all its glory. Send it!
Oh, jeez. I'm going to soar back looking at that. That's a very, very cool sight.
And they're going to be doing that. Oh, and O'Neill has gone around, and I think, yes, he is missing his left rear tire. It is kind of hanging up in the air. That is a guaranteed tow at this particular stage of the evening. But fortunately enough, this is early enough where you can make the tow, get your car fixed, and you can potentially have a good race.
Still steal a top 5 from this point, even if you have an issue, because there is so much left in this race, and there are so many more that could have dramas and issues. So stick it out in this one. The tow, sure, it's unfortunate to have to use it this early, but it's not the end of the world. It's just seen David Gargano have issues. Oh no, another car around that Vuan. We knew the attrition rate would be high. It's
I mean, that's
a bit of a struggle.
That's already two cars torn up in the
first sector.
Yeah, pretty much. So eventually at some point, these guys will get settled down. The tires will get some heat in them. They will be able to start lapping themselves. It has been described, this race, as a player versus environment race rather than player versus player, to borrow terms from other games. So we get the replay right here of the O'Neill incident.
Oh, sideways over the jump's not going to work.
Yeah, I think he hit the brakes a little bit too soon or got off of it. Just depending on when you hit it, and if you get it wrong and you're sideways, it's a bad time. Still circulating around on the first lap right here, looking at the 777. But as we get to the replay, we have another crash before, and that is a very massive impact. And I am surprised that did not collect more vehicles.
Yep.
Wouldn't you say, Jay?
Yeah, that's lucky for everyone else that came past there that they didn't get any damage from that themselves. Justin Morton is interesting for me. He's right in behind the car of Travis Walling, but not quite close enough to get the move done at this stage.
And on this particular straightaway, it is possible to get runs to make the pass, but as you can see, as we get to the right, the left, another left, over that little bump right there. You catch that bump wrong, that's going to kill your car. But as you can see, he might have an opportunity. And Benfield is taking the lead. Action happening all over the place on this first lap as we arrive soon at the first carousel. Morton in the back almost had a little oopsie, but keeps it going. And now we check out one of the unique corners of the Nürburgring right here at the carousel. Round and round she goes. Where she stops, over there on that other side.
Most iconic part of the Nürburgring. So cool that it's still there. This is why Tixier has lost the lead. Watch this slide. It looks cool, but I don't think you're supposed to go that sideways.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a time travel back to the deja vu days, because I feel like we've been at this place before.
The top 4 have broken a little bit of a margin. Travis Walling and Justin Morton not able to keep with the leaders. A lot of racing left in this one, though. Still going to be a good 2 hours of racing for these drivers. They will be absolutely exhausted by the end of it, though.
Exactly. This is probably one of the places that has the longest up times that you will have to drive. There's hardly any rest you can find around here. Even when you get onto the large, long, multi-kilometer main street right here, as we look through the driver cams, Seb Tixier with the Himax, I believe, in VR. That is a very intense ride. I personally drive VR myself, and you get the sense of speed that you get just driving through this place is absolutely incredible right here. But yes, at the same time, you're not going to hardly get any brakes. Even on the front straightaway, these cars will be wobbling about as they're just hanging on for dear life right here.
Yeah, it's literally holding on too, isn't it? You're gripping the wheel so much more tighter than you do at any other racetrack in any other car. So it's an extreme workout. The bumps are feeling more painful through your shoulders by the end of the race. You have a real workout by the end. So you get a bit more of a look from Tixier's car throughout the race. Dan Stevens also joining us on our webcam feed as well. He's decided to start from the pits, and he's messaged me and said if you want to see how an old bloke tackles this big monster. Yeah, this mistress, he actually said. He's already said he's going to struggle with this one, but if you can finish the race, I feel finish the race without using your spare car, I reckon that's a huge win.
Absolutely. Especially in this particular race, halfway being, I would say, complete 8 laps, roughly. You get full points after that point. You just want to get to that point for sure, because if you crash out and have to quit before then, you collect a flat fee, and everybody else in the previous 2 splits will get to move up 1 position, assuming they don't crash out. But that's another thing with the majors, is it's not just these guys tonight. There's 2 other splits that are running concurrently at the same time, just like real iRacing. For, when I say real iRacing, I mean officials and all that stuff. And there's going to be 2 more splits tomorrow, so lots of opportunities for drivers to come in and participate in these big events with, any type of skill level is welcome here.
Weather's not going to be too much of a factor for these drivers either. The wind isn't too strong. It's not too hot. It's a Goldilocks looking weather conditions out there at the moment. Just right.
Just right, you say, but it won't be that way for too much longer, because if you watched the news of iRacing recently, they just released the teaser today for the Tempest update that's going to be happening next week. That's going to be pretty something as they roll that out, I think.
One of the cool things with this car, the amazing suspension that you can watch from onboards, how much it moves. You can see rear axles, how much they're spinning, and the engine notes. Absolutely beautiful in this car.
She is definitely a beauty for sure. As we look at the top 3 right here, separated by less than a second, with 4th place Nathan Dowd just 1 point, thereabouts behind. So
in draft range, that's all you need to be, isn't it?
Pretty much. That is the opportunity that you need at this particular point, just to be sure that you can strike and get that position if it presents itself.
The other part with that too is Dowd is probably far enough back that he may be able to avoid contact with one of these guys if they have an incident too. So he's in a very, very nice looking position. See how that tracks out over the next little bit. We've still got battles all the way through the field. We saw that Walling and Morton were going at it, just behind Vorosky and Kevin Hill not too far away as well. Dallas Pataska's got a bit of a group forming behind him. Bazugli and Swaby with him. Austin Peterson has a group behind him with Christian Abade, Eric Della Riva, Tom Abramatis and Benjamin Callow not too far away. And then Luke Santos has the Brian battle behind him, Brian Bennett and Brian Barnes. So if you're in top split, you're basically in a battle.
Yeah, these guys were very close to qualifying, just 8 seconds separating first from 24th, and among those guys, plenty of them were in the same time bracket. So there, even though you are competing against the track primarily, there is still at least going to be somebody around that you can battle with. Try to see who's the better of the 2 or 3 or 4, whoever's in your group.
Great visual of how often car breaks traction. 280 odd kilometers an hour through the fastest part of the circuit for the longest period of time. I'm sure the straight is quite long, but this section here I find is faster because you're full throttle and turning for so much longer. It feels so much quicker. It's an incredible section of track. One thing that does surprise me a little bit is the draft hasn't been as big of an impact in this race as... Oh, Justin Morton, Kevin Hill have come together.
There's an apology on the radio. I wonder if Morton made an oopsie. But it looks like they were able to relatively keep it going. They have wheels up. But an apology was sent, and we'll see if... Oh, there's another car off ahead, the 13.
A bit of damage on that one too.
Multiple. But he's going to try to drive it back. Doesn't look like the tires are down or up or broken. Let's take a look at the replay right here. The 9 car loops it around, holds the brakes, and then tries to get out of the way. Oops. That's one of the tough parts of this kind of this close action. You have to make that gut decision right there. Look at the replay. Too much curb. Way too much curb. That may not have broken a tire, but that has definitely been some suspension, and I think the 13 for sure will be needing to take the spare car quite early on in this event.
Still limping it back. I'm guessing there won't be any issue with the engine getting too hot with that nose cone now exited the car. Still got some pace in it because he's just got past Justin Morton, who obviously has some suspension damage as well. See him limp it back to the pits, but back at the front, top 4. Still going at it. Still racing hard.
Racing hard and racing very quickly. I thought there, before we saw all those incidents, I thought Trixie was going to send it up the inside of one of those corners way back when about 5-6 kilometers back on the road. And we get another spin right here. 13 is having not a good day at this particular point, but if he can get it back to the pits, that saves him quite a bit of time over waiting for the tow truck to come get him.
Yeah, well, Austin O'Neill, remember he had that spin at the jump on lap 1 and hit the wall. His tow time was 8 minutes and 48 seconds, which is obviously 2 minutes longer than a full lap. Here comes Tixier, he's got the move done, but as soon as he's pulled out into the fresh air by himself, it's like hitting a brick wall. He's dropped about 15 kilometres an hour. He's still got enough to maintain the gap as he forces Banfield off into the grass. Great driving from Banfield to avoid contact. Challoner got out of the throttle as well to make sure there was room for Banfield to return. They got away with that unscathed, but I don't know how.
That was a little saucy, truth be told. Seb Trixier, first start in the series at this particular point. You could technically count him as a ringer. Not showing a whole lot of respect at this particular point with one of the series regulars, Ross Banfield. But, as you pointed out, Ross Banfield showing the skill necessary to hang on to that car in a particularly mean section of the track at the end of the lap.
Could have been so much worse. So, thankfully, no issues. I don't even know if there was actual contact then, but it was very, very close between them.
I don't think there was any contact. Thankfully, the Lotus 49 is on what iRacing calls the new damage model, as we get a replay from the onboard.
That was a good bit of driving there. He made sure the wheel was in between the other 2 wheels.
Yep, and that's the thing with the new damage model. If this was on the old model, they probably would have had a collision right there, but with the newer model, as we get Christian Abate around, at least on the new model, you can put the wheels in between each other and not have any kind of collision for a brief period of time. Good luck trying to do it in an international setting if you have to do that for an extended period of time, though.
Justin Morton's come in and used his spare car, no surprise. So we've had 5 drivers so far out of our starters, 24 of them. 5 have used their spare car at this stage of the race, which isn't a good way for things to travel if that record maintains. But fingers crossed we do see race start to clean up a little bit as the drivers get a bit more heat into the tyres as the cars warm up. There's a little bit of contact here. That's why we saw Abate around. Who was that? The 20. Abramitis.
Abramitis starting very far back at the field, moving his way up, but that was a weird little bump and run moment, and did that
just damage the front?
You can get away with a little bit of nose damage, but that's about the only spot that you can get away with. Any place else you touch, you're hitting something important.
If we can get a look on board with Abramitis, because it was very strange. It's almost like he didn't even know that the car was there. So, not sure what what was going on there. That's not what we would see normally from Abramitis, so that's why I'm giving him a bit of the benefit of the doubt, because it's often a very, very clean racer, so that doesn't seem right. Another look.
I think he did jump in late on this particular week, so it's entirely possible that, yeah, he might have.
He's just missed
He
his
might not have
braking point.
anticipated that checkup. I think the car in front braked a little early, not wanting to get involved in someone else's mess, and then, well, you get nose-to-tail collisions. It kind of goes. The vault goes all the way to the back.
Look at the front live. Tixier's broken to about 0.8 of a second. It's not enough to break the draft at this stage. They will start to close it back up now. But the guys behind him will be starting to recognise, hey, he's got a little bit of pace here, does Tixier. He's starting to force a bit of pressure on. That last lap by as well, we did have an official fastest lap of the race come through for Christian Challoner, although Tixier and Nathan Dowd did do faster laps. They didn't count as official registered lap times because they obviously hit the grass at some point. Oh,
Tixier's a go round! And a very, very lucky dodge from the front two cars. Banfield and Challoner both able to get away from that safely. I'm certain what happened is he got a little aggressive over that bump, and I think that's what caught him out. But the car is still going, which is the most important thing. I think he only hit the nose pretty square. If I can get this replay up, I think that will tell the tail. Here we are. Oh, he got off. He fought the lawn, and the lawn won. What one I know.
That was good. I'll give you that one. The car doesn't look too damaged. He looks like he's still scooting along okay. So, see if he's okay throughout the race and can continue on okay. He's just obviously backing off a little bit now through the twistier parts of the track, but doesn't look like it's too bad.
I'm taking another look at it on my end. It does look like he hit the nose very square with a little bit of contact on the right rear at the very end on the outer barrier. It's going to depend entirely on if well, it actually is messed up a little bit. That right rear has decided to cave up a little bit. Looks like it's towed out a good couple of degrees. He may have to come for a spare car. But meanwhile, that changes the things up at the front. Now we get to the championship regulars at the front with Ross Banfield 7th overall in the championship, leading the Christian Challoner car, the overall championship leader. They're right there. This little section right here is just absolutely crazy, leading up to the second concrete carousel. If you nail this section right, it is an absolutely wonderful feeling. But if you mess it up, it makes you feel terrible at the same time.
And someone like me, it's more of the latter than the former. I never used to be able to nail that section. The first carousel I could get okay, but the second one, I seem to always find myself falling out of it or going too slow and almost hitting the inside curb. Just could never find that Goldilocks line. Challoner with the draft advantage. I don't think Challoner's going to make the move here. I think he's just going to be very content sitting behind Ross Banfield and letting Banfield lead the way. Pace advantage with Challoner. In saying that, he's just backed out of the throttle. He dropped about 10 kilometers an hour as he eased off the throttle. Banfield's starting to pull that gap back again. Nathan Dowd also looking content there, sitting behind, watching and waiting.
And if you remember on the last lap, Challoner had a front row seat to that little encounter Trixier and Banfield had. Having to do the calculations to see if maybe he had to dodge Banfield if he wiped out as they complete lap number 3, I believe.
And Kevin Hill's just got past Alice Bataska as well down the straight. Fastest lap for Christian Challoner. He's done an official fastest lap as well, an unofficial fastest lap. The best one from everyone in the field. Banfield and Dowd did register a lap time that time, and no surprise, at the same time Tixier is in to get a spare car, and he's already away. Does he cost himself in the end? 6 spots from the incident. Going to rejoin just ahead of Eric De La Riva, Tom Abramitis and Benjamin Callow. You can see that damage to Abramitis' car at the front one thing that you'll have to be careful of is that the engine doesn't overheat from that damage, because there won't be as much air getting straight into that engine, straight into the radiator at the front there, as there would normally be.
As you said before, it is a 3-liter V8 from way back in the day. Naturally aspirated and also exposed to the elements, which is a stark contrast to today, where you have bodywork literally pressed up against the engine block. So, as you said, having potentially cut off access to the radiator might give him a little bit of heating issues, but we'll have to see. He's probably doing the right thing at this particular point by waiting to take a spare car, because if something else happens, and look at the attrition rate as we are at this point, like we've gotten 2 new cars over every lap, so as long as he can hang on to that spare car, it's going to be okay.
7 of the 24 starters have used a spare car already, as Christian Abate gets his way past Brian Barnes up into position number 15 for Abate.
Just having a very
Bennett and
team bus first finish.
yes, 100%. It's not just a saying; it's 100% right. To finish first you must finish, and finishing is all that a lot of the drivers will want to do in this one. And if you do finish the race, you're probably going to find yourself in a better spot than where you started, unless you started right at the front. For those racetracks where just getting to the end is a battle all of its own. Bennett and Bazugli, a very, very good battle here. This is back for 19th and 20th, but just because it's back in the field doesn't mean that it's any less intense. He's saying that it's probably more intense than right at the front.
Definitely. At this particular point, not quite to halfway yet. I think Bennett would be content letting Bazugli go, since Bazugli has already used his faster rear, but at the same time, Bennett may not necessarily have that information at his disposal, unlike what you and I have, Jay. So probably just content trying to focus on his own line right here.
Well, Bennett's used his as well. Bennett pitted that lap and used his as well, so we obviously missed something for Bennett, but he obviously had some sort of damage to come in and get that done.
Surprise!
Oh no, the Zoogly into the fence, and that may be day done. That front left is destroyed. Now the nose is destroyed. I think that's the first retirement we're going to see.
Not familiar with how long it takes to fix these cars, or even if you can fix these cars outside of the spare car, but as you can see, they got really close to each other and potentially misjudged the braking point with having air taken off the nose. Did a fantastic job not to take Bennett out at the same time. Take a look at it on board with the space-time replay. Right into the braking zone, and bang. That is also a very tough section of quarters to get the braking zone right, because it's almost like 2 braking zones, and if you can get that first one late, then you're going to have a whale of a time trying to get it warmed up for the left-hander right there.
I think that was another one where just tucked up too tight behind the other car and missed the braking point. So unfortunate there for Zoogly. Dixie has just got himself past Lyndon Swaby, and just also seen that Benjamin Callow has gone past Alec Della Riva. They come up towards the carousel. Go back to that battle there. This is the 11th, 12th, 13th place battle.
And it's a good show thus far. These guys staying all in line, also giving themselves plenty of room right here. Oh, that car taking a lot of curb right there. You may notice along the sides there's 2 different types of curbs. There's the traditional red and white curbs that you can kind of put a wheel on, but it generally will upset the car more than anything else. And then along the outsides, you might checkerboard pattern bits that you can put wheels onto, and it gives you a little bit of extra grip, but you got to be careful on the transitions that you don't hop that side of the car and get yourself into trouble.
They're more like a concrete tile as opposed to just a normal concrete angled curb. Get our first little bit of lap traffic here. This is Stephen Verwain just ahead. He did have to come in and use a spare car, but he did not tow back to the pits, so he's maintained himself on the lead lap. Actually, everyone is still on the lead lap, but despite those tows that we did see, so surprised by that, but Wayne will go a lap down, you would think.
We might get a little action right here.
Yeah,
Challenger
sure
steps out in the draft. Drag race down the main straightaway, and Banfield will concede the point at this particular point. Still very early in this race as they get to the final chicanes. But we'll move Challenger up to the lead, 315 kilometers an hour into that braking zone right there.
Oh, and a bit of understeer as he got under brakes there. Did hold on and didn't loop the car around, and a little bit aggressive in the final corner, but no surprise that Challener's got this thing dialed in and knows how to drive it. Let's post another fastest lap of the race as well. Again, no surprise.
Quite possibly one of the experts in the Lotus 49 outside of the official community. I'll harken back a few years to when we ran this car at the Milwaukee Mile as a hybrid oval race. His car was perhaps one of the most hooked up vehicles, able to extract every last ounce of speed out of it. And even though this car has seen back end revisions several times, still a very, very quick driver in this car.
Jeez, I love that shot where they're getting air over the jump. There's so much air as well. The bounce as they land and then get almost air for the second time as they land is incredible. Very, very cool. And Banfield is doing a great job of sticking with Challenger. I think they're working together there now because they're starting to break from Nathan Dowd. He's not quite able to match these guys through that section of track. I think the pace has just started to pick up a little bit between Banfield and Challenger.
Just a little bit. It's almost like a stage in the Tour de France, like the mountain stages, just climbing up the hills, going back down, just making sure that you don't step outside of your limits. That's what it's going to take to survive to the end right here as we get through this little modification to the course. Very tricky section, and they're not really using all of the track space available, but they're just needing they're taking what they need to get around.
I'll be honest, that was always my least favourite section of the track. I always missed the braking point, always found myself in the grass or in the wall. Could never find the right line through there, but lap traffic now, Verwain's not far away from these guys, and they'll no doubt get through relatively easily and relatively quickly. The issue for Verwain, often in these sort of cars, if you back off to let lap traffic go, you sort of get yourself out of a rhythm. You can find yourself ending up in an incident yourself from trying to do the right thing and getting out of the way. So he's done a very, very good job. Probably picked the perfect spot to get out of the way as well. Well done.
It was not only the perfect spot, it also, I think, was the only spot, because just the corner before, he got way too much of that inside curb and was very sideways. It would not have been very pleasant to be hanging on to right there, and I think he wisely backed out. As we see the 16 car here, this is currently for P14, chasing down the 440.
Just had a moment.
Let's take a...
Oh, I've done this before.
Yep, he fought... This time, well, okay. He bumped the outside wall. Let's take a little look.
You might be okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It looks like he got it slowed down just in the nick of time to only get a little bit of damage. The wheel is manageable. We'll have to see if that car sustains further damage down the line. Because we still got to keep this camera on this lead battle. These are two of the best road drivers, I'd say, in this series at this particular point. Christian Challenger, the former Coke Series driver, battling up against Ross Banfield, who's had many of opportunities to push his way up the career ladder. A couple of appearances in the Racing Prodigy series.
And Nathan Dowd's dropped from these guys. He's had an issue. He's hit the wall at some point, and he's had something go wrong because he has dropped from these guys and he's dropping positions quickly. He's now back into 4th, and he's got no pace in his car at all.
No pace in the car, and he's got a meatball. This is a very severe impact that he has experienced. Let's take a look at it on the replay.
Oh, sideways.
Way too fast for that section. He's damaged the left side of the car, and it is enough damage for the iRacing officials. Yeah, it's a very unhappy car at the moment. iRacing has recognized this. They have presented him with the meatball flag. You must come and repair this, or come get your spare car. One of the two. You have your choice.
Well, I guess he will take the spare and get back out there as quick as he can. Drivers that started in pit lane, that was Dan Stevens being one. He's now up into 17th position. We also saw Kevin Santana. He has had to come back in and get a spare car. And there was one other, and I cannot remember who the third one was. Was it Huwayan potentially that started from the pits as well? But the 3 that started from the pits, the only one that is still going without using the spare is Dan Stevens. Just look at the air. As they're coming down the hill, they've got the front wheels turned to try and turn the car the second it lands. These guys look like they are absolutely out of control, but they are as controlled as you can have these.
As you say, it looks out of control, but it's controlled out of control. Doesn't make sense in saying it, but it's almost like you're planning on having the car in a certain position when you get to that landing point to have it do what you want. Especially over, in that section before the second carousel. In this final little round section, you want to get a good run off, and we'll see if Ross Banfield returns the favor in trying to drive away now that the Dowd car has taken care of itself. Here we go. Battle for the lead again. Moves to the outside. Banfield, 190 miles an hour, nearly 300 kilometers at the same time. He gets ahead by a car, and Challenger will concede the point. They are cooperating at this particular point. If they keep exchanging the lead like that every lap, I could see them using that to build a couple of tenths on the lap as they work their way through the last bit of chicanes. But you can move Banfield right back to the front for the time being.
At the same time, we've just seen Seb Tixier move past Dallas Pataska, and Nathan Dowd is at the back of the group. New fastest lap for Ross Banfield, 6:37.0. That lap by for Challenger was a 6:37.6. Tixier now leads the secondary group. The secondary group now is for 5th, which we had a group for 4th earlier. But now it's for 5th. Hill and Pataska there too. Nathan Dowd is just behind these guys and expecting to veer off to the right. There he goes. He's in pit lane.
One of the shortest pit lanes that you will encounter on the service. It's not really intended for full competitive pit stops, as if they would run the VLN, they would take a jaunt over to where the south course would have been, which is now the Nürburgring. They would use the pits over there for service, but as you can see, taking a look back at Daniel Stevens, just hanging on to Justin Morton for the time being, but Stevens is doing exactly what he needs to do. He said to you before, Jay, he wasn't going to be very competitive, but he's driving within his limits. He's doing what he needs to do to get to at least to halfway, but definitely he wants to get all the way to the finish and score a good points haul on the roadside.
Interesting too, you notice there on his Zoom feed, watch his left hand. This is about as old school as you can get, isn't it?
Very old school.
Using the H pattern?
If it looks to be the case, yes. In the world of sim racing, you can use any kind of control you want to control the vehicle.
We go over the jump. Watch how light the car goes. Watch the hands. Watch the wheels. Oh my god, that's incredible.
Just hanging on for dear life, but still on the road. Is that somebody at the door, Jay? I hear knocking at the door.
We've got a knock at the door. Hello to Dan Yeaman, who's going to jump in and take over for me with 10 laps of racing to go. Sounds like you've got not much left, Dan, but you've still got plenty of racing left.
Yes, thank you for that, Jay. I was going to say, yeah, there's only 10 laps left, but you're talking 10 laps at the Nordschleife. So at 22.8 Ks according to iRacing per lap, that's still over 200 clicks. And also in these cars, that will take a little while, of course. In fact, looking at 6.5 minutes from the guys, like, say, Ross Banfield, I've just seen, my camera's flicked to him, doing, 6:37. Well, then we're still talking about, what's that, an hour's worth of racing? Actually, an hour and change. So, still plenty of time left in this one, it seems, before I get to say we're done here.
Still, as you say, it's still a long ways to go, Daniel. But still with maybe a third of the field have already taken their spare cars. The endurance level is already, the attrition rate is also extremely high. But as we watch the Challenger and Banfield cars working their way sort of along the north side of the course, I want to say, up towards this little section right here. Watch this little bump, ever so slightly over, and working their way through.
Indeed, up here, through there, I think, the Mook curve, if I get the corner names right here. I actually better get the track map up and actually read off the names as we go around. But I do know we are coming up to the first of the carousel, so I can at least say that with confidence here as they wind their way around. And yeah, I'm not too surprised to hear, Lynn, that unfortunately attrition has definitely been a challenge here today. I've not gone back this far. In fact, I've actually just acquired the Lotus 49 to be able to jump into this one, and I'll have to give it a steer at some point just to see how loose it gets. But around this place, which is tricky enough in the best of cars, and then say, oh yeah, you've got suspension. That's leading these cars literally, I'm seeing the front end floating for various drivers at various points. I did see with Dan Stevens there how the car, I think it bounced twice over the jump there before Flugplatz. So yeah, certainly not surprised to hear that things have been a bit of a handful, to put it mildly, out on track. In fact, this, I think, is what I might be looking at the moment. Yes, the 440 of Luke Santos and Benjamin Callow in behind him. They are running for 10th and 11th on track, so apologies there for the moment that apparently, I could presume Santos might have started from the pits based on what's happening there with the overlays.
Yep, but able to keep themselves out of trouble at this particular point, so they're having a good run. Still looking at Nathan Dowd, having used his spare car just a few minutes, but oh no, Stevens! Poor Stevens, what happened? I don't know. Just had a little loopsy up, then a little slap at the wheel. Bad car. Well, but he's in the carousel at this particular point. Have to see. Are we going to get a replay? Yes, we are.
Thankfully, I've just had a look at it myself. Looks to be fairly tame, but we'll let the replay do the talking here in a second. As coming up into this corner before the carousel, and just in a bit too hot. The downshift and the rev matching didn't quite get it to pull up in time, it seems. And the rear end eventually broke free there as he tried to pull the car up before getting back on his merry way, which he has done so. Steve is now unfortunately down in 17th place in the number 3 for Finger Racing. But we'll go back to this fight here with Callow, Santos ahead, and Nathan Dowd now in behind. So three-way scrap on the road as they are currently heading up towards. We actually find them again on the circuit.
Surprise! There's another car going to the party.
Oh, hello, indeed. Eric Della Riva, the 979, has decided to, had a moment, it seems, up the road and now make it a four-way fight.
Yep, he just slides in. He just slides in ever so slightly behind. Take a look at the replay real quick. It's a very small incident, but it's enough to cost him 3 positions with as close as these guys would. Wow! Absolutely got the corner wrong. I think that might be a braking issue. This car does not like a lot of rear brake, as we saw with Stevens. I think when Stevens got to the corner and realized he wasn't going to make it, he locked it down, and if he had brakes all the way towards the rear, and we're talking about like 58-59% brake bias towards the front, it's still going to lock up those rears, and they're really big tires, so once they lock up, it just likes to go around. As we get a new fastest lap from Christian Challenger. I believe that was a 6:35 I saw. Wow.
And might have also taken the race lead away from Banfield in the process, because I could have sworn when we checked in with them half a lap ago for them, Banfield was in front for a moment. So putting some straight line speed perhaps to good use there, Challoner, as they're now already heading up towards the Flugplatz once more. But back in again for this fight for 12 and 13. We're going to see here the pass for the lead at the end of the Dottinger Hohe as they come up towards the Bilstein Bridge. Challoner, and yeah, gets clear of Banfield nice and easy. And okay, part of that is Banfield probably not looking to contest too aggressively there. As you said, just about to approach halfway in this race. So better to live and keep fighting another day, I guess. And if you've got someone to work with for straight line speed advantage, that's certainly a handy bonus too.
Absolutely. And we've seen before you were able to come in, they have been swapping the lead back and forth every lap at that particular point. Looking currently at the 0-9 of Abate, working his way through the first part of the course once again as they start another lap. But back to the party. This is pretty much the biggest battle on the track right here. A 4-car peloton, if you will, right up to the jump. As you can see, oh, did that third car in line almost? I think he almost wiped out right there.
That would have been close, but yeah, so Santos there's dropped off the back of Dowd and Callow by about a second there, it seems. So as we'll watch them come here again into this compression before Schwedenkreuz and Arenberg. And yeah, there you go. All 4 wheels off the ground for Santos at the Flugplatz. And then you can see, yeah, look at that right front. Back up off the ground as well as he tries to turn the car in. It's like the last possible tyre you want coming off the ground to try and be able to hang on to it. But he did hang on to it. Just see a bit of momentum lost. You see how gathering it back up as they make the run down towards the compression and now force.
And at this particular point, yes, you just had a big moment, but you've kept the car underneath, and with these bias fly tires, he's going to want to take a moment to recompose himself, because those tires, having landed and bounced multiple times, probably put a little extra heat in those tires, so he's going to have a little bit of reduced grip. Also, dropping away from those cars, it's going to handle a little bit differently than he was when he was closer before.
Yeah, 100% indeed. So, curious to see how this pack goes, because yeah, sitting together it seems. Gap of about 3 seconds, if I'm reading that, from Dowd up to Tom Abramidis, who's currently holding down P10, but we'll see if that changes over the course of the races. We'll go back to Challoner and Banfield at the front now, working their way up from Berg, work towards the Mut curve here. See if Banfield stays in behind. I would think so. You can see how they're twitching here. As they hop twice the front axle coming up for Challoner there as we come into, I think it translates and is just typically is called Courage Corner here on the Nordschleife. And the fact that the commitment from these drivers, they are using all of the road, Banfield and then some with the left rear in the grass for a fraction of a second, and then get it pulled up here as they head for the carousel once more. These guys certainly looking to put everyone, well, they already have put everyone a fair ways behind, it seems, but certainly going to keep that up as they then finally get the cars loaded up with some compression in the springs there through the carousel. Let's have a look at this here again. All 4 off the ground for Challoner, twice, and Banfield too for good measure.
Are we driving? And right up behind Challoner right here. Not necessarily looking to overtake for the position, but trying to apply a little bit of pressure like there, right there. Challoner got a little bit of the curb on the inside.
Which is there, but I'm going to jump in, I think, at least on my end, losing you a couple of moments there, but just caught you there as we watch the onboard here with Banfield trying to work the line here up past Brunchen and try and maybe see if there's a way to keep the pressure on Challoner, and certainly keeping the pressure on here as they then start heading back towards the Dottinger Hohe once again past Flansgarten in a second. And yeah, watch here again, we'll get 4 wheels off the ground. These guys keeping it under a bit better control, unlike what we saw from Dalla Riva about a lap ago now. Unfortunately, just got in a bit too hot and got the suspension all kinds of crisscrossed the wrong way. And then, yeah, again, they'll be picking the tyres up multiple times through here now as they come past the Stefan Beloff-esque curve. And we welcome Scott Rank into the commentary box as well to make it a 3-way party here as we approach the halfway mark of the 1967 German Grand Prix for the Major Series in 2024, Scott. And, well, if you've seen these cars around, I hope you're enjoying it. If not, you're in for a treat here as we watch these drivers tackle the Nürburgring Nordschleife this afternoon.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, take me back in time. I've had a lot of friends telling me that these cars are extremely fun to drive. I tell you what, Majors have come out with a blinder. This is one of the best events that I've ever heard of. So unique, so crisp. Man, this is going to be a great race. Whoa.
Wheel in the grass once more on board with Banfield, taking back the lead from Challoner, once again employing the crisscross here as lap 7. They'll pass by the pits once more and stay out on track. And part of that might be due to having taken a pit. Unfortunately, I missed that if they did come into the pits before I jumped in. Scott here, but yeah, now crossing officially into the second half of the race for our leading two as they'll work their way down past the Spitz curve and onto another lap as we get going here. And check out a little further down the pack, a couple of our drivers on the Dottinger Hoa. That's the number 7, Nathan Dowd and Tom Abramitis fighting over 10th place. So they've switched spots there. In fact, actually, pardon me, that's Dowd, and that group of 4 that we were watching earlier is Dowd, Callow, Della Riva, and Santos, now starting to have reeled in Abramitis now. So this is going to become a 5-way fight potentially for the top 10 spot at this stage.
All I can do is think back to Fuji and just think how interesting that race was and how many, little bits and pieces there were to go in the last half of the race and the last sort of few laps. Obviously, the prototypes there were so big, but, consider that. Consider that these guys are driving a difficult-to-drive car. Fatigue is kicking in. The Nürburgring, it saps you normally when you're in a car with a ton of grip. Well, these cars don't have a ton of grip. Start to think about that. When they hit about lap 10, lap 12, oh no!
Trouble for Dallas Pataska, unfortunately. Come off at Hudson-Buck by the looks of things here, Lynn. And he's going to actually tow that one back to the pit lanes. We'll jump to a next of our Major Series replays. Unfortunately, looks like a solo incident too. Oh, gets it locked up under brakes and compression with the suspension as well.
It's a little bit of a lockup, but also at the same time, he got that rear. Especially, there is absolutely nothing that can save you at that point. You saw how quickly that thing whipped around and into the wall. And that hit several corners, so it's not surprising that he took a tow right there to get out of the way.
I wonder whether or not he broke up a drive shaft on that one, potentially. He actually couldn't pull it out of the spot it was in.
It's entirely possible. These cars are very fragile. Again, real quick, these are the Lotus 49s. There's literally not much to them at all. It is a bathtub with a gas tank, an engine bolted to the back, and suspension bolted onto everything else. You touch one little component, and it's gonna have a very bad time.
I've just gone back to look at Pataska's incident again, unfortunately, and actually went away on him on the desert. Yeah, that's there at the flue pads once more for our top 2, and again bouncing a second time once the car's touched down, making for a wild ride and then some. It's already pretty hairy in many modern car. Yeah, these guys seem to be taking to another level with these Lotus 49s. As go to Sebastian Tixier, currently riding in 5th place, and also that is quite the VO headset, one of the Pimax units there, as we try and navigate our way around. See, up to over 200 km an hour still before getting on the brakes. Currently heading down in towards, well, the name might be Versiphen, if I'm looking at the right part of the track map. It checks out in my brain, and yeah. Actually, not a lot of micro correction going on, I have to say, which is impressive. But despite the way these cars are looking, that's a fairly smooth set of hands for Tixier at this stage.
And the weight in the wheels changes. Whenever those tires lift off the ground, the weight in the wheel really changes, and it's about predicting where that weight's going to go. A little bit of a lift on the throttle. Really being nice and accurate with your brakes, because you can't just stab these things. They don't have quite the same level of grip modern cars have. You've got to be smooth. You've got to be balanced. You've got to be aware of what the suspension's doing at all times. One of the advantages, though, you can see the suspension arms, so that kind of helps. But one of the big things I want to say, just a funny that it passed through my name, putting the flue back in flue plats, these cars, I tell you what.
It's an interesting way to put it, Scott. There's another replay here heading up into Adenauer Force, being told Bentana, so Kevin Santana, apologies, 666, and that unfortunately is a little bit more than a hit to the wall. That's the left front corner completely gone there, Lynn, and lo and behold, Santana back in the pit lane as a result of towing that one and not able to get back with half a lap of the Nordschleife still to come in that situation.
Yep, as you saw again, another car dipping tires off at in the entrance of a corner, causing a massive loss of control. And again, these walls, outside and inside, very, very close to the track surface in most of the course locations. So these vehicles are, they're going to have a hard time at this particular point, but especially you look at the lap counter, lap 8 of 15. They've already been at it for nearly an hour, and exhaustion is already starting to set in for a lot of these drivers, I would imagine.
Easily, yeah, that's definitely an important factor. Then I said here, the fact that I'm jumping in with 10 laps to go, that's easily an hour coming up my way here. And yeah, approaching that hour mark as well on the opening side of things for these drivers. As we watch these two here, Banfield and Challoner, work it once again there. Big compression as they head up towards the Stefan Beloff S curves in a second, right about here. And once again, car getting light as they try and come down the hill, and then trying to get it back to the right as it continues to float and just picking up on them. Once you can see there, Banfield actually driving a little bit past the apex, because what's an apex in this car? It might just be optional in certain spots, but it does get it controlled here up into Schwalbenschwanz and the Kleiners Carousel for the run back down the Dottinger Hell once again shortly, and presumably we'll see Challoner take the slipstream and head on by as well as these cars work to the end of the lap and get ready to start the 9th. As there's been a swap further back in the lap. Nathan Dowd up to P8 has passed by the 961 of Lyndon Swaby. Let's have a look here real quick on my end, and that's just a very slow moving car, so don't see an off-track excursion for the 961. Just ended up letting Dowd past here. Lynn, you can see just coming up into I believe this here is Brunshin, yeah, YouTube corner, and job done.
And if you notice, more importantly, those are two Sector 5 cars. Teammates probably in communication with each other on the same voice channel. Probably decided, hey, I don't want to be up front anymore. Would you like to take the point? Yes, please and thank you. And then there you have it. Banfield getting sideways in that final chicane right there as they start to finish the lap and start the next one.
Something I've just noticed as well, having a look at these cars, that shot that we just had, and if you have a look at this shot right here, have a look at where the front and the rear tires are. Now, this may explain some of the issues that these drivers are having. One of the biggest and easiest things is normally when you sit in a car like this, you go, it's all square. All four tires are in alignment. Have a look at this car ahead. When you have a look, the rear tires step out probably about 10-15 centimeters wider than the front tires. And that's probably some of the reasons some of these drivers are having a little bit of accuracy problems, because their front tire says, I'm right up against this white line. The rear tire is in the grass.
Good observation to make indeed, yeah. Apologies there, Lynn. I'm just also watching the speed of these guys here coming down. This is terrifying. Over 300 k's an hour before the Bilstein Bridge. It's nerves of steel to get around here at full pace.
Yeah, with the amount of practice that these guys have been doing all week, they kind of have a feel for where these tires are. But the main thing that I would be considering is how little camber that you're able to put into these vehicles. The maximum allowed tolerance is negative 0.5 degrees at full fuel. And as the car lightens up, that number will actually decrease. It'll raise the car up, the camber will decrease. It's going to be nearly vertical by the end of this run as they get completely light on fuel.
That's a rarity, really, in racing of current day and age. Just in Christian Abate, he has also done a similar thing to what we saw from Lynn Swaby. He's let Justin Morton go down the front stretch just before they come into this section. So, position made for here. So, big trouble into Adenauer Force once more. Second driver getting called out here on the MajorsSeries.com replay. And the number 13, yeah, Jordan Bazugli has unfortunately sent that one straight back to the pit lane as a result.
And unfortunately for him, sorry Scott, that's like his third or fourth incident. He's already used a spare car a long time ago, I believe on lap 1. So unfortunately not having a very great day, but if he was considering running for the points, and if having already used a drop week for round number 1, it's a good opportunity to at least get to halfway in a couple of laps if he can get this car fixed one more time.
Was that Challenger just set the fastest lap of the race last time by? Okay, well, Challenger's fastest lap is about 0.6 of a second faster than Ross Banfield, so he's coming at him a little bit. Whether or not he's just conserving, just being right there. So he did 6:35.383. So there was an off track in that lap somewhere, which has cancelled it. It's not eligible for fastest lap status. But Banfield's best lap is a 6:36.0. But he also ran a 35.3. So they're both pushing these cars to the absolute limit at the moment. So there's no holding back. There's no resting on the machinery. There's no looking after anything. It's about get the car pivoting, point it in, make a little bit of a mistake through the lap. These guys are cracking on.
Anything chance here. Well, not chance, but yeah, they're going to leave nothing on the table, I think is the better way to say that one there. That's for sure, yeah. So let's say, having a look at, pace-wise, they look to be pretty similar, but yeah, so just Banfield hasn't quite got the pace, hasn't got the number on the board yet. That was a valid lap to say, here's matching chances. There we go, the hop up there through Klostertal and Kesselchen before they arrive here at the Mut curve. Again, these drivers are doing nearly 290, 300 k's an hour, and that's actually probably even more terrifying than what I'm seeing at the Dortmund, which is just fast. That's fast, and the front end comes off the ground, which means you can't steer whilst the track is continuously curving up the side of the hill.
Yeah, you're when you get up in the air, you are literally steering front to back, using the gas and the brake to try to get the tires down as evenly as you can, or at least the back tires down first, so then that way you're not steering off into randomness. As we get the super duper slow-mo, look at the hippity hoppity. These cars are crazy rabbit fast.
Do you reckon Lewis Hamilton would be complaining about his spine in one of these?
He would definitely have a bone to pick with that.
Wouldn't be ground effect though, so there's that.
I was going to say the suspension might actually be a bit of a blessing in disguise. It's just a lot of up and down motion, so you better not have seasickness if you wanted to ride aboard one of these things here in a situation like this. Probably more than spinal problems, given, they've got a bit of up and down freedom. What should we got here on screen per chance? Sebastian Tixier up to P4. I could have sworn he was P5 a while ago. In that case, caught up to Trevor Vavrosky in the number 10. And they're now working their way up towards Vipperman here on lap 9 of 15 already. Laps ticking down as this is going to be the move on replay. So gets up behind Vavrosky into the corner before carousel. Might be called Steilstrecke if I can trust the iRacing track map. And there you go, side by side, and that's not too contested too closely there into the carousel, given it's a single file through here, that's for sure.
Keep half an eye on Nathan Dowd though, because I think he's pushing on. We were talking about he ran down Tom Abramidis. Well, he's now pushed clear of Abramidis. I don't know at this point in time whether he is actually taking time out of the cars that are actually up the road of him, which is Peterson is about 7 seconds or so up the road from him. The last time by he took about 3 seconds out of him. And the lap time this time, I'm seeing a lot of very, very green sectors. So last time by was about 7 seconds behind him at the line. Now it's down to about 4.5 seconds. So he's catching. And the next thing I want to keep an eye on is the next car up the road as well, Kevin Hill. He is taking time out, but time is running out. I think for Kevin, I don't think he'll get there in time without some mistakes. But if he's set this car up to be good, lighter on fuel, he could have a real shot. These other guys could be starting to struggle a little bit on grip. Yeah, look, and talking about grip, with the extra couple of eyes, that'll give you the lap charts.
Indeed, live timing provided thanks to the team at Grip, and showing us there the delta between, is that Vavrosky and Hill? Peterson and Dowd, apologies. So yeah, the two cars we expect should probably end up in a fight towards the end of the race. You can see there, absolutely, that the rate Dowd's going, he will catch up, because their last lap around, 3 second delta, carrying gap between the two of them, sitting at about 4 seconds. That will probably close down in due course. Back to the front, Challoner fires it in to the Sabine Schmitz curve, and it's going to allow Banfield back by after they exchange positions at the end of the lap through the Dortmund Hole once again.
I think he just got a little aggressive on the braking. Probably didn't anticipate the tires wearing out that far, and Challenger wisely backs out to let that overtake happen. Managed to get that lap led at least in this current exchange, after Banfield stole an extra lap selfishly, we'll have to see how the calculus changes at the end. If they stay together like this, it's going to be a very, very interesting fight at the finish line right here.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight. Look at the cars bounce right through there. That did not settle the way that Challoner wanted that one to settle. That changed up just a couple of different ways, so he wasn't quite comfortable there. The other thing to note was, I've just sort of been trying to learn a little bit about these cars as well. You were talking about as the fuel wears off. Well, think about how the suspension operates as that fuel wears off. Normally in a stiffer car, you do feel a change in the balance, but the suspension has got less weight to return it to a central point when you've got less fuel on board. So the car is going to rock around a lot more. The car's going to bounce that time by, but they're in a really unique spot. There's a bunch of guys at the moment that are just sort of struggling, and a bunch of guys who their cars are really coming on. So I think we're going to end up in a place where this pack sort of comes back together. Keep your eyes on Travis Walling, Seb Tixier, and Trevor Vorovsky at the moment, because again, another group of guys that are sort of elastic band out early on, pushed away from each other. Now that rubber band is starting to really contract and pull those guys back together. Could be in trouble if you're sitting in P3.
I have to agree there, Scott. Looking at the last lap alone, 3 seconds difference between Walling 6:39.5 versus Sebastian Tixier 6:36.4. So at the current gap of 3 seconds, if Walling has another one like that, Tixier will be in the slipstream range by the Dottinger Hoa and be challenging for that position next time around. Vorovsky, unfortunately, looks like he's being dropped rather rapidly by Tixier, so I think he'll have to consolidate for P5, because also Kevin Hill behind's not gone faster, actually went about 1.5 seconds slower than Vorovsky there in P5. So I think that might be safe there, top 5 finish at least, although still got to make it 5 laps and change of the Nordschleife, and that means being on top of your A game to be able to pull that one off, as we'll check back in with our leading two, heading up towards Bergwerk here. We'll see, presumably Challoner once again will stay in line as they've been doing all race long on this half of the circuit at least then.
Yep, these two have been the class of the field thus far. You could add Tixier to that group up until the point that Tixier crashed earlier and had to take his spare car. So he's been playing a little bit of catch-up. He probably would be right on pace with these guys if he were still up there. Tangent to note at this particular point, Dallas Pataska has retired the car. I believe he elected not to take a faster pair and has instead departed for parts unknown.
Unfortunately, yes, indeed, the ring claims another one here, so we'll be down to what looks to be 20 running drivers at this time, and yeah, so unfortunately for Kevin Santana, Dallas Pataska, Stephen Bavayan, and Jordan Bazugli, don't expect to see those drivers back out again. So we wish them well in the next race. It's not because it's not quite the next life, thankfully. Don't quite have to go to eulogy preparations.
Just doing some numbers, I can see at the moment that Vorovsky is probably a little bit too far out ahead of Nathan Dow, but Kevin Hill is definitely in range if the last couple laps or anything to go by. Having said that, Dow did take an extra 2 seconds. Should have been taking about 2 seconds a lap. Last lap he took 4. So there's a really, really big gap there. I'm wondering whether or not there was some problems. The other thing is Dowd's exceptionally quick. If you have a look at the times up and down a little bit at the moment, he is making time to everyone relative. The top two are about the only two pulling away from him. I think maybe Texier's got a little bit of pace as well. So he's very, very quick back there. So definitely going to catch Peterson. Probably going to catch Peterson in this lap, maybe. If not, very start of next lap.
It's got to be close.
Oh, he's down to 1.3. He is reeling him in. He's coming. And I tell you what, this battle pack in behind as well. So good. There's sort of 3rd to 5th, 6th out on his own, and then 7th through to about 16th. They're all covered by about, 15, 20 seconds? It's great.
Pretty much you can see them all on the same straightaway at this particular point. Looking at the battle for position number 3, Warling. Not having had a chance to talk about him much. Could go ahead and concedes the position to Tixier to get Tixier back up to the 3rd position. Warling having a very quiet afternoon right here. As we take a look at the lead change right here. And Challenger just getting ever so slightly sideways, and Banfield taking the opportunity to squeak on by. There was another little incident further up the road where Banfield ran a little wide in a corner, and Challenger had to do everything in his power to not run into the back of him. But at the moment, the running order is back the way it was.
I'll tell you what, Dowd's on the back of Peterson right now. He's caught him. So Dottinger her, it's going to get done. Absolutely going to get done in the Dottinger her.
Yep, and then I'll leave 5 laps for Nathan Dow then to go try and chase down Kevin Hill. And with a gap of about 10 seconds, if he can keep up a 4-second lap difference, that's done in 3 laps with 2 and then 2 seconds in change by the end of lap 3, and then a whole other 2 laps to either consolidate P6, which is what we're expecting at least, or at least make an impression on Vavrovsky, although it won't be enough to close the gap down there. Yes, that's what we're expecting based on the way they're all running at this stage. So, as I'm saying, yeah, we've still got this battle pack here that we were watching a moment ago. Yeah, 11th now through 15th for Justin Morton at the top of it, and Luke Santos at the back of it. As here we go. The run now begins down the Dottinger Hoher, and Nathan Dowd will take all that slipstream and say, thank you very much. I'd like to go past, please.
190 mile an hour. 192, 193, oh, right on the verge of 194 mile an hour. Apparently, I'm still in miles an hour at the moment at this point in time. So capping out about 195 and with a little bit of a toe. So this will be an opportunity. Maybe Peterson will learn something, watch a couple lines here. But huge toe down that Dottinger her helped him massively. So again, I'm interested to see the lap time as it comes up on the board for Kevin Hill, because that'll be critical. But I believe that margin's down now to about 9 seconds. So he is coming. Is absolutely coming. 640. So yeah, there was something wrong on that previous lap. Still took 3.5 seconds. A little bit of that was the toe. So I think it's going to be about 2.5 seconds is what he's going to catch him at. We'll catch him on the last lap of the race. And we all know how powerful that slipstream is down the Dottinger. That's going to be a battle to watch.
That it will be. I think that's a good point to make. If Kevin Hill can pick up the pace, and yeah, it delays it to a last lap fight. I guess yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Now that Dowd also in clean air again, if that changes his pace metrics as well, I think is worth noting. But given he's spent a couple laps chasing down Peterson, doing 36s or thereabouts, I'd say probably not a huge amount, as we're right on board with Challoner in behind Ross Banfield. Again, inside 5 to go for our leading 2 here. You can see that they're in 4th gear still, and then we come down the gears here as we come into Metzgersveld and coming up to the Spiegel curve on this lap 11 of 15. You can see the gears super long on these cars. It's allowing them to get these pretty crazy top speeds down the Dottinger Hoher. So really relying on driving the car. You can see here, look how little steering there is on the way into this part of the track. Miss, hit, miss. Initially, just actually getting it all pretty much. They're barely steering right, Lynn, to get it turn in, and then finally, once the speed bleeds off, he can actually throw that wheel to the left to get it to pitch in here. So riding it with the throttle and brake, as you pointed out briefly earlier, certainly a trick to running this car fast.
Absolutely. And more importantly, it's an open gearbox. You can change the individual gear ratios along with the final ratio, and there's a little bit of strategy involved in those. You can choose to make little shorter throws in between, which will give you a better options in more corners, or you can go with longer gaps to where you'd be riding around more, like right here at this particular point. This straightaway, it's a 4th gear pretty much for everybody, I would think. Some can get up to 5th right before here, as we see right here. He shifts up to the 5th gear. See him jump over these humps again. And he'll grab 4th gear right before he gets to this transition point, and he goes down 2 instead. The unorthodox race set, I can safely say, does only go to 4th at that particular point, but it's just going to be a difference between how you want to handle these corners.
How sick was that ride, though? I'm just sitting there, just watching that, just going, I'm so glad we're doing this in a simulated element. I would not have wanted to do that in real life. Like, my heart would have been through my roof. There's no way I could go and attack it that hard. It's just a testament to the skill of these guys as well.
I mean, yeah, the fact that, of course, yeah, being in the virtual world, the drivers are probably willing to test the limits, perhaps at least while I would have practiced testing the limits a little bit more aggressively than things were once upon a time when cars did come in. I've just seen Dow put 2 wheels in the grass on the way up towards Moot Curve as he climbs the hill. So yeah, he's not letting up in that attempt to go and chase down Kevin, but he's dragging Peterson with him. So far, after catching Peterson in a rapid fashion, then as you see him on the bottom of screen, I believe, or that might be Surprise. So that's Lyndon Swaby and Tom Abramitis that also nose to tail and fighting. As they come up towards past the Moot Curve already and coming up towards the carousel themselves. Got plenty of action going also there. Whilst I've been talking about these fights elsewhere in the field, Lynn, gap stretching out for a moment between Banfield and Challoner as they complete this lap of the Nordschleife and begin to head back to the Golden Jehoa once again.
But the key thing at this particular moment is they're still in the 1 second draft window. So early on, we saw they would cooperate. They would swap the lead back and forth on the main straightaway just to make sure that they could break away. But now that they've built a 30-second gap to the third place car of Trixier, now you could be a little bit more selfish. And in a couple of places, they have overstepped the bounds ever so slightly. Not enough to crash the car, but enough to give pause to the other driver. So it's going to be, it's the key thing to be is, do you want to be in first or do you want to be in second on the last lap coming to the checkers?
This will be a good one to watch here. It's just over 0.8 of a second as Banfield came onto the Dot and Jehoa, and now the snaking begins. So looks like, yeah, all instances of sportsmanship and playing this one out smart starting to go out the window here as Banfield, well, a couple of runs of us, but he'll give it up here as we set up under the Bilstein Bridge for Tiergarten and Holland at the end of the lap. So gap comes down from 0.8 to 4. So that's an important metric that I'm sure someone like Challoner will keep in mind, and Banfield, of course, too. Going to have to get that gap to at least 0.4 of a second on entry to the Dot and Jehoa. Then again, maybe let's call it half a second, because of course when you're a little bit closer, Scott, the slipstream will be more powerful, as that was a new fastest lap of the race. 6:33.9. Banfield went with him for the most part, 6:34.2 for your race leader, but they are really turning up the screws now in 200 mile an hour, according to my timing for Challoner, was his peak on the Dot and Jehoa that time by.
Well, that speaks to me. Maybe they were just fuel saving just a titch. Maybe they were just a fraction short. They'd underfueled it just a fraction, or there was something they were doing there. And now they've gone, okay, everything's right within its peak. I've done everything I need to do. I've done my tire saving, done my fuel saving. As the fuel's burning off, this thing's getting faster and faster and faster. But to step 1.5 seconds faster, whoa, that's a big step. And the other thing is, Challoner had the assistance of a huge toe that entire lap. Everywhere he's getting more speed, more speed, more speed. So Banfield, for me to only be 0.3 of a second slower, says to me, I think he's actually faster. He just cannot break away from Challoner. Now, Challoner's going to have a big advantage coming into that last lap. If he is second here in the Dot and Jehoa, bets are off. I have no idea who's going to win that one. But think about the other side of the coin. These guys step out of this car. Then we move to mid-April. What's the next round? It's going to be TCRs at Bathurst. So have a think about the different skill sets and how these drivers are going to adjust out of a little bit of an unstable, bouncy car into something that's a lot more stiff, and you've got to trail brake it to turn it. You know, there's a lot going on there. And think about when we get into the next round, really keep in the back of your mind where they've just come from.
I was going to say, you're going from quite possibly the most pure racing machine on the planet to have ever existed, the Lotus 49. We're going to go over to touring cars. Really stiff, as you say. Also really durable, right, like the next gens. And then we have to deal with the heresy of front-wheel drive on the mountain. What is this?
Amazing. That's what it is. It's absolutely amazing. Next year, can we get these Lotus 49s at an Indy 500? That would be amazing.
We'll see. We will see. There has been some talk of about potentially alternating the speedway events around cars. I know last year we had to switch over to a different vehicle because of certain contractual obligations. But this year we're going back to the IR18 for sure at the speedway event, and we're still figuring out what we want to do for the wild card round. That is going to be the Pocono and Auto Club rounds for Atlantic and Pacific respectively. So still a long ways to go, and we still got 4 laps to go, 3.5 where the Banfield and Challenger cars are at this particular stage.
Actually, I'm going to give you another idea. How about making a wide speedway? So I'm thinking either Auto Club Michigan Pocono for the 49s. That would be something unreal. To get 4 or 5 wide in these things would be amazing.
I say terrifying. You're talking about a car that's got no aerodynamic downforce. It's on, is it bias ply tires potentially? We're going that
It
far
is
back in
bias ply.
time?
It is bias ply.
Yeah, so the tires have not got much to provide us in terms of grip. They've got treads. And do you want to see them 5 wide at Michigan? You're insane, Scott.
Well, they don't call me sane. So. No, I was going to say, well, hang on. Jake Kennedy's in the background. I was just piped up and said he only wants to see them because he doesn't want to race them. I'm saying you do that, I'm signing up.
That's absolutely wacky, if you catch my drift.
Take the man away from the oval, but you can't take the oval out of the man, it seems. That's what I've learned from listening to Scott. And learning about Scott and where he's come from and what he likes to do. I think that just seems to be all the more appropriate. Although apparently he's gone.
Do you know I hold the lap record for a Dallara IR18 at Eldora Speedway?
Ask you to take that car somewhere it shouldn't have been taken.
I was going to chime in and say, not for long, now that I know that.
Fun fact, reverse gear in the IR18 is nearly as fast as driving it forwards.
Oh. Front-wheel. Take a front-wheel drive car. Sure, why not?
Front-wheel drive, that might be cheating at that point. Best be careful not to mix that up too much. I mean, the last time I took an open wheel to the dirt, it was a Dallara F3, and I made the simulator crash because the NDM, I think, actually had a complete freak out at dirt physics interacting with a car that had breakable parts that could be ripped off.
Tell you what, Nathan Down's pressing on. I just saw him go sideways corner leading up to the carousel, so he was really pressing it on there. So he is down to under 5 seconds to Kevin Hill. I reckon he'll get him. I absolutely think he'll get him. I think he's going to have enough time.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Maybe we should get back to the race that's actually happening on our screens rather than our weird and wacky racing fantasies. There's a gap progression on screen now between Hill and Dowd, and you can just see that line, blue line of Nathan Dowd just marching upwards towards Kevin Hill as the reference mark. And I'm also seeing half a second this time for Banfield and Challoner. This will be curious to watch. We saw 8 tenths converted to about 4 tenths. Will half a second translate to Challoner being in front at the end of the Dalton Jehoa this time around? I'd say yes. What do you think here, Lynn?
Maybe. Because he is going to... So, but as we see right here, taking the run, dives to the inside, and he's going to take this position coming to 3 to go officially. So now we're starting to do the math. Banfield can kind of do the math in his head as he drives, me not so much, but we'll see.
Okay, next question then. This one for you, Scott. Your Ross Banfield or your whoever's in first when we on the white flag lap. You're half a second up, entering the Dalton Jehoa. Do you lift off to try and get a slipstream back past the other driver in front? And basically, because I just watched Banfield's speed, obviously picked up when he got in the toe of Challoner, who after he passed. Do you try and game that by letting him go early?
I think if you know that you're going to get past, you can't just sit there and do nothing. Is definitely what we know. Did he gain enough? Now, the previous lap where he was 0.8 of a second back, the weaving did enough. Like, the snaking down the straight absolutely did enough. He closed, but it was only a little bit. So if he's that far back, the strategy the strategy's all going to change based upon the distance. It's 100% going to be based upon the time between the two drivers, based upon where they are, where they're sitting, how comfortable they feel. If you know you're going to get caught, I think you've got to give it up early. Give yourself enough time for that engine to wind up and get that draft back. If I personally, I'd be letting him go before we get there. That's what I'd be doing, but I'm judging that gap. If I'm out to about 8/10, I think I'm safe. I think I'm okay, and I can snake him and defend it. So it'll all judge upon how close he is.
All right, well, we'll have to watch who plays. I think that's an interesting suggestion you make there. Just give it up before we start the run down the Dodger. Are we going to get a game of leaders play chicken in that case? Because neither of them will want to be the leader then, in that case, heading on to the Dottinger. You can see, oh my goodness, Ross Banfield, how much curb was that? That was actually grass on the inside of the apex of the compression there. That was something I don't think I've seen. So he's not going to let Challoner go. Now, I'll be curious to see here. Now, that will have invalidated this lap. But what this number's about, because obviously he's been out in front, Lynn, for the past couple of laps whilst we've been sort of watching on and off this one here. And Challoner's been punching in the ultra-rapid fast laps. We'll see what can happen. As we're being told in the background that there's been trouble for Travis Walling. He's in the pits right now, and this is why it's happened, Lynn. Uh-oh.
Paint has been scratched. They've been doing such a good job. Unfortunately, over the jump, spins it around, gets a lot of damage on the rear tire. Probably a safer bet to tow it right away. Unfortunate moment. He was doing really good, having a really quiet afternoon, but unfortunately, it happens. Still plenty of time to come back. Actually, he just straight up disconnected, which is unfortunate. But with the amount of retirements that we have had, I don't think he's going to lose all of the positions. He's going to probably be around 21st when everything's all said and done. Take a look at it in the super slow-mo replay. It did not like that landing right there. You could tell.
Well, it was the takeoff. Lynn, as somebody who's raced motocross, it's all the takeoff. It's got nothing to do with the landing. By the time he's in the air, it's over. The car's already pivoted to the left. Even if he lands and it flick spins back to the right, he's done. The instant he took off from that jump, he was done. Maybe that tells you enough you need to know about me, Lynn. I'm crazy because I rode a motocross bike. There you go.
I admittedly, I'm going a little bit crazy back here. Apologize for the technical issues on my end. I keep trying to push the button, and the button doesn't want to. Discord doesn't want to let me talk at the same time, so I apologize for that.
So your computer's going crazy. I'm just going crazy in general, and Dan Yeaman's been left in charge of us. Dan?
That's an interesting way to suggest I'm suddenly in charge when I said to Jay, sure, I'll jump in because you've just told me we're unfortunately missing your regular commentator for the major series, Reese Garner. Actually, can say Reese has actually, since we started and all joined in, he is in the Discord channel with us now, but not here unmuted with us. So we may get a chance to hear Reese's voice, but we may not. Hopefully all was well with him and we'll be able to hear from him, whether it's live on air or after the race, one of the two. And see how things go as we're looking here at Kevin Hill, an eye on the gap to Nathan Dowd. Yeah, 2.7 seconds as we suspected. This should come to a head shortly. Last lap, 2.3 second difference in lap time. And yeah, update in the YouTube chat. Unfortunately, bit of context to Travis Walling's troubles. He was driving without audio as of lap 9 apparently, and doing it by feel. So credit to him, but that will explain why the Flugplatz caught him out that time, it seems.
Yeah.
I think that button's doing you dirty, Lynn.
Yes. I'm not happy.
Look, I'm gonna add a little bit of information context, I think, to that. The last 2 laps before he actually crashed, he was 7 seconds, I think, slower than Nathan Dowd. So everyone was coming back to him. Yeah, certainly it wasn't easy, but those last 2 laps in particular, something was going away. Maybe what can happen is you can overheat the tires a little bit, too much steering input, too much steering angle, just not being able to find the shifter correctly and the shift point. So I think he was in a lot of trouble, and that we just saw the end result, really.
But looking back ahead, this gap at the front is just a couple of tenths as Ross Banfield wearing, that's not the usual U-Dogs uniform, I think. Is that Super Mario that he's wearing? I think he's having a joke with me, but he's got the slipstream, he's driving the Super Mario Kart. He's gonna make a move to the inside right here, side by side again. It seems like every single lap they are just side by side at this particular point, and he's gonna get ahead before the chicanes. And does Challenger concede? Yes, he does.
By the way, Nathan Dowd right on Kevin Hill at this point in time as well. So whilst that battle changes, there's another one about to go off.
And coming up on 2 laps to go, if you look at the exchanges, if Challenger exchanges this next lap, that would put Banfield in second place coming into the final lap. It's gonna be I think Banfield has done the calculus correctly going through this section as we switch over to this next battle for the 5th position. Kevin Hill defending against Nathan Dowd. We have been talking about this for the past few minutes. Are we going to see the same thing happen as we did before with Banfield and Challenger?
Something
Let's have a look and see if they're playing that level of game. You continues here, Scott.
Yeah, something I just want to bring up and highlight is look at how much more overspeed Challenger had when he blew by Ross Banfield, right? Ross didn't have the same level of overspeed. I think his gearing ratio is not 100% correct to get that pass done at that section of the track. I wonder whether or not he's right at the end of his boost sort of range. He's running out of a little bit of legs at the back end of the straight. So keep that in the back of your mind. The draft certainly looked stronger for Challenger.
Yeah, he's up around 9,000 RPM at about 310 kilometers an hour. And then, yeah, he's sort of almost hitting just the aero wall when he pulls out from behind Challenger there. And so, yeah, 315 without a toe seems about decent compared to what we're seeing from these two so far. But, I mean, yeah, we'll have to see on that one as to whether that's enough.
Yeah, the chip for the ECU chip for these vehicles is about the 9,500 mark. You can over rev ever so slightly if you on the downshifts, but 9,500 is about the limit when you're going up through the gears.
Something happened to Trevor Vorovsky in that last lap as well. He just dropped 7 seconds, whereas he's only been caught by about 1.5. So something happened on that lap, whether or not it was a moment. He's dropped about 6 seconds off what he normally would be. If he does that again over the next couple of laps, I tell you what, Dowd is going to be close. It's going to be real tight. It's going to be about 2 seconds back of him when they get to the line.
Yeah, I'm actually scrolling back through the Rossi's lap 13 to see if I can spot anything. And for the most part, no. Also apparently been told Director Joe Kennedy is having a hunt for it as well. If we find something for you, we'll let you know. But I've almost made it the full lap in rewind at X16 and that was all clean.
It may entirely be...
Did he have to back off, maybe? I'm going to check the end of the straight. No, end of the straight's flat out under the Biltstein Bridge. So I might... Well, it might also be the whole game of the fact that I literally went back at X16 speed, so probably doesn't help me. Nothing obvious.
It may be possible that the set has gone away from him, and the car is just slow. Tangent at the moment, Kevin Hill has a big moment enough to require a toe for a meatball.
To Kevin Hill. Well, I'll get that one queued up in a second here. And, oh yes, but that's already gone. Yeah, three-wheel wagon is not ideal. In fact, it won't even turn left for Arenberg. No surprise there. We'll try and get Jay will probably go back and try and chase down exactly when it started. And being told it started, so the replay we go once more, Scott, and in a second, and we'll dissect this one here. Oh, fluke flats, not again.
Oh, you can just see it. See how the car was tipped left. See how the car was tipped left when he hit that jump. You've got to have either the car is going to be slightly turned to the right or pointed straight, because as soon as you're crossing up through the air, the rear is just going to continue to rotate on you. So you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect with keeping that car tipped to the right. If you are not if you cannot be tipped to the left, are you done?
needless to say, gentlemen, this is a very difficult vehicle to drive at any speed, and you add in the challenge of the last of the long Grand Prix circuits. This is pretty much, with minor revisions to like the jump and some other places, this is basically the exact same course that they drove on way back in the day. I think to Spa-Francorchamps, it's had a lot of it cut apart. Hockenheim, big section taken out of it. This track, still pretty much the original, bar a little bit of the south course having been taken away for the Nürburgring.
I mean, I love this track, right? It's the problem is the racing on it's not great, but I do love the track because it's just, if there is something that is going to challenge you as a driver, I mean, you lengthen the track out and you can put as many difficult pieces into the track, but it's fast, it's flowing. You've got to have a car that's good on the high speed, the car that's good through the medium speed, the car that's got top speed, a car that can take the low speed stuff, a car that can take banking, can take dips, can take, you know, sharp changes of direction and be okay. And this car certainly has none of those attributes. So the fact that we have as many as we do have going this far and lasting this long is an absolute credit. Anyone that has taken on this event and come out the other side deserves a round of applause and some appreciation from everyone, because you cannot tell how difficult it is.
Oh, but Challenger might have made a little bit of a mistake right there. He got a couple of tires off on the exit of a corner, and I think that has spread the gap out over a second. On iRacing, that is about the limit of the draft. And even though it's a built for breakaway, Banfield is still doing the swerve. He does not want to give Challenger any kind of advantage here.
Look how aggressive he is. He's actually bringing him back in because he's swerving so aggressively. That actually hurt him. That did not help him at all.
Yeah, gap down from 1.15 to 0.75 as they come into Tiergarten here to get ready to take the white flag to begin the final lap of our 1967 German Grand Prix recreation here for the Majors Series. So Banfield might just be able to get Challenger clear. As Polish 3 seconds is not the gap between these two, but there you go. Banfield responds, or finally returns serve after a 33.3 from Challenger was quick, and then we see a 32.859 from Banfield in clean air for the entire lap. Yeah, now the rocket ships are coming out here, that's for sure.
Just to put that into perspective, a 632.8 is merely 7/10 off of his qualifying run. Absolutely insane.
Oh, but he's lost a huge amount of time in the opening sector. So once again, well, for a second, I thought that was going to be Banfield had the gap to make it, Scott. But there you go, come through the fluid plats for the final time. Both drivers steady as she goes, but the gap under 4/10. Won't see Challenger presumably go for it anytime soon, but he's now right back in it, and Banfield's going to have to find time through the corners of consistency to be able to be safe once we get back around to the Dotten Jehoa.
I mean, he's been quick. He's quicker than Challenger across this sort of sector of the lap right here. He's quicker than Challenger up and around the carousel and down through the hill from there. It's Challenger who's quick on the straights, but he's got to shake him. He's got to do something now. If he doesn't do something now, he's vulnerable. It's too late by the time he gets to the Dotten Jehoa. So he's got to find some speed. He's going to push limits on this lap, and that means that there's an inherent risk in that. So how much risk is he willing to take? A lot by the attitude of the car as they come up through here through compression.
One other thing to keep in mind real quick, there isn't an incident cap in this race as they both get sideways into that braking zone. So these guys can push to the absolute limit and then some on a lot of these corner exits. They can rack up as many 1Xs as they please.
But where's it safe to do so? There's nowhere around this track that's safe to do so. It's a huge risk anytime you do that for very, very little gain. Oh, you've thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. I love it. I love it.
As we come down now, after having already passed by Metzgersfeld, we're coming up to the miss now. Gap sitting quarter of a second between Banfield and Challenger as these drivers work their way into this complex here. Seems to me Banfield certainly not trying to take it easy by any stretch of the means. I mean, both cars, we said they're adding our force, getting loose as they try to slow the cars down and settle them for the switchback. But at times, both of them right now through this section of the track, looking reasonably calm and steady on the inputs here, so not trying to overdrive things as they get ready for the run up the hill shortly from Bergwerk to up towards the Muck curve once again. So we'll see here. Presumably, once again, Challoner happy to stay behind. I'll have to ride on board with him. As Bansfield is actually tracking it out into the grass with the right side tyres as we come up to Bergwerk here now for the climb. Halfway down the lap, halfway to go.
Wide. He's so wide. He's so wide when they get through there, but he's able to carry some momentum. And it's that initial acceleration. Remember we talked about, he's got a slightly shorter gearing ratio, which means his acceleration off the corners is better. Look at the difference in line from these guys as they climb the hill. They'll bounce the tyres. The tyre's not all the time in contact with the ground. It's nearly like a right front tyre wheelie when that's the inside tyre. Then it's back to the left. Watch the cars as they float all the way up the hill. And here they go. Huge bounce, huge wheelie for Challoner. He's right there. He's in contention. He's thinking about this. He's thinking, my opportunity comes when we get to the Doddinger. I've just got to be here. I've just got to make it clean. I've just got to give myself a chance. And thus far, he's done enough.
But here's another cat. Here's another cat for your pigeons. Does Challenger try sending it up somewhere? Maybe catch Banfield off guard? Because these cars, they've been on these tires since the very start of the race. They are at their lightest, the camber at their least amount. There is certainly an opportunity to be had sending it in a little bit early. Maybe you can push the guy off.
Yeah, that's something you see there. If both drivers don't want to lead
Whoa!
going onto the Doddinger, yeah, they're both really struggling now. Coming up towards, well, that was Hedwig's Hill, coming up to Wipperman shortly. Neither car is happy now in the corners. I guess as you're pointing out now, the way the car is changing to the reduced fuel load, this is really starting to hurt them in terms of cornering potential. We'll have to see here who comes out on top of it, because at the moment, in this section here, as we approach Wipperman proper now, gap up to around 0.6 of a second, so advantage Banfield here as we're coming up to also, well, this is now Brunschen. We've already passed by Wipperman. I should apologize. I need to actually keep careful tabs on the track map here at the Nürburgring. It looks like also trouble further back in the field. I'm seeing 42 is parked as, closing gap indeed here at the front as we keep watching these two decide who's going to be leading onto the Doddinger. That was a snap and a half there for Banfield.
I tell you what, he's not, neither of them. They've stopped leaving anything on the table. It's all gone. They've used every little bit of racetrack. They've used a little bit more than that. Now they're into the final stages. The last gap. Wind the car up. Challoner climbed all over the curbs. He got sideways. There might be enough of a gap. That might be just all Banfield needs. Now the problem for Banfield, he was all over the track trying to snake last time by. They got to the Doddinger. It's going to be a long straightaway to decide this motor race. It's out to 0.7 of a second. Is Challoner too far back? A couple laps ago, he was about this distance. He couldn't get in range, and now he's got two corners really to line this thing up, to square it off, to point it, to make sure he's in the draft, and he's lost a little bit more as they get to the apex. It's the Doddinger. It's last gap time, and Banfield leads. It's 0.7 of a second. Let the snaking and the drafting games begin, boys.
The key thing for Banfield to keep in mind, he has choice over which side Challenger is going to get to go. The gap is narrowing you say it's too far. I say it's just close enough for a massive lunge. And we know Challenger is going to be capable of that.
There we go, Hail Mary send. It'll have to be Tiergarten. And them pretty much flat lifting then as the cars lighten up. One last braking zone here mainly, and then an absolute send into the very final corner is perhaps on the cards. Does Christian Chandler try? He does. He gets close, but not quite. It will be Ross Banfield who holds on across the line to win the majors iteration of the 1967 German Grand Prix. 0.2 of a second at the line from Christian Challoner. And well, that certainly went down to the wire. Sebastian Tixier has checked out for third place and will bring it home here shortly, it seems. Just got the last couple of corners to negotiate. Our eyes might need to start looking back towards it as Justin Morton's got off in the dirt. He lets Tom Abramitis through for 7th place. And they're actually all the way back at not even the Kleiner Carousel. Unfortunately, that there is a fight done. And then after that, you have to track all the way back, it looks like, to Luke Santos and Eric Della Riva for our next potential fight that might brew on the Doddinger. But the gap currently 1.4 seconds for 12th. So I'll keep posted as to whether that suddenly changes and becomes possible here as our drivers continue to finish off the lap further up the road.
Well, I think keep our eyes on Christian Abate, who's right on the back end of Lyndon Swabby. He's just got into draft range in terms of that one. So Morton's had an issue late on. Morton gained a couple spots, drove by Tom Abramidis. So Abramidis' car, as the deeper and deeper we got into this race, just fell away. Now onto the Dottinger now, it's the same thing. I think he's just a fraction too far back, all the way up through the gears now to 300 kilometers an hour before they start to climb up and out. The swerving has begun, the snaking all the way down the Dottinger. 315 clicks as they get there. 316, 17, 18 at the crest of the hill. Can they find an extra gear? Still around 318. He's going to run out of time, so this one's going to be done here as well. And then in the background, Eric De La Riva and Luke Santos are going to continue to go toe-to-toe, but it's the same thing. I think there's just going to be enough in it for Luke Santos to get home. Closes late as well. Is it time for a shove down the inside? No, it's real difficult to get the car pulled up down there, and that's how they're going to run home.
Ifs, buts, and maybes were indeed on the cards here, but it looks like everyone's going to bring it home as they were when we checked in on them there, leaving just our last couple of drivers who will need to circulate to finish lap. One of them being Dan Stevens here with the Zoom feed. Unfortunately for Dan, back here in 16th place, and that looks like it'll be where he finishes this one. He's got a minute ahead, over a minute behind, and that will almost be it. Yeah, just got a couple of gear shifts left, and then two braking zones to negotiate as well. So we'll watch here with Dan. Looking fairly relaxed according to that heart rate monitor as well, it seems, if it's to be believed. As a top speed, one last time coming his way here on the Dottinger.
As he accelerates for the final time down this main straightaway, you see he'll reach 300 kilometers an hour, but as we've talked about in the past, he said himself this wasn't going to be one of his strong events. He started 21st at this particular point. He's gonna, if he makes it through this remainder of the quarter, he's gonna finish 16th place. I say, job well done. You deserve a t-shirt for being able to survive this long.
I think that's actually quite fitting. It's the I Survived the Majors Series 1967 German Grand Prix. Seems like it's a bit of a mouthful. We might need a ring on that one there. There we go. Dan's a happy man. He's made it. It might be P16, but in many respects, survival is certainly highly creditable on its own. And what could have been the case for Kevin Hill here? He'll be the next one to get it to the line. And unfortunately, with 3 wheels, well, when it was 3 wheels on the wagon, that certainly made things a little rough there for him at one point. Thankfully, able to get back out to finish the race here, Lynn, at least.
For sure. Couple of, again, started 8th, probably going to finish 17th here. Had a couple of moments, but he is able to at least get all the way around to complete all 15 laps here. Really good effort overall from the Evolve crew. Ooh, took a lot of curb right there at the very end. But he's got to get through this final set of corners, I think, okay. Really good job, and a really clean livery, I would say, from the Evolve guys this round.
Indeed. I think most of the paints I've seen today have been appropriately in theme for the era, so credit to all the team painters.
Hey! Kevin, what was that?
He scratched the paintwork, that's for sure. I guess he's decided didn't need that one anymore. As Austin O'Neill will be our final driver to complete the race. Unfortunately, a very lonely 5 minutes behind the leaders, at least. But once again, we'll be able to tick this one off and say I survived the 1967 German Grand Prix here. Well, get to the end first before I call that one there. I wouldn't want to jinx a man or jinx a driver this close to the end of a race. That would be particularly cruel. And we think there might be the occasional commentator's curse that can be applied in this very comms box, but no, O'Neill will make it across the line without any dramas, so check that one off there. As we didn't curse him. Huzzah!
I think we avoided the curse on account that you joined in the progress, and I really appreciate you tagging along here, Daniel. As we proceed onward and upwards, I see people, as we take a look at the final results, Ross Banfield getting the overall victory for the Unorthodox Motorsports Lola team. followed closely behind by Christian Challenger in second, just a couple of tenths behind. And believe it or not, that is a significantly closer margin than the real Grand Prix this morning. Got to poke a little fun at that. Seb Trixier in third, just 31 seconds back on the road, followed by Trevor Pravorsky, Nathan Dowd, Austin Peterson, Tom Abramitis, both for the Mega Sim Racing team. A great points haul. We were looking at the points total beforehand, right up there with them. Justin Morton, Lyndon Swaby, and Christian Abate rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, it's important to know, yeah, points obviously mattering here, of course, with the way the major series works, yeah, for drivers and for teams as well. Benjamin Callow was the first car outside the 10 there, just about 3 seconds off the back of Abate. We'll have to settle for 11th, and then it was Luke Santos who eventually fell back to 12th. Got, as I said, close there with Eric Della Riva towards the end, but was comfortable enough down the dot in Jehoa, so P13 for another one of the Evolve drivers here this afternoon. And then it was Brian Barnes, about another 7 seconds back with Dogbeg there in 14th place. Brian Bennett bringing it home in P15, leaving us with just Dan Stevens there for the middle finger number 3 machine in 16th, ahead of Kevin Hill, making sure to finish off the race at least in 17th there. And Austin O'Neill bringing it home in P18 to round out our finishing drivers for the race. Unfortunately, we did say goodbye to David Gagaro Jr. in 19th and Kevin Santana in 20th. Or at least that's what they're classified as, both 2 laps short of the scheduled distance here, Lynn, with Travis Walling 3 laps short, Stefan Vivian and Jordan Bazugli both, 4 laps and 7 laps short, respectively. They're both in Evolve Sim Sports cars, so I better get that right. And Dallas Pataska, unfortunately, our first retirement, 8 laps short, so just under halfway into the race there for him. And that wraps up the 24 starters and their finishing spots here today.
Yeah. But we have some people to
Ending.
talk with right here. Oh, and we interrupted a conversation. Hi, Ross.
Hey guys.
So in the booth with us at this particular point, Ross Banfield with the Unorthodox Motorsports team, winning the 1967 German Grand Prix. Ross, start us off. Talk us with how did you feel overall with that event?
That was one of the hardest races I've had in a very long time, maybe the hardest so far, just because I knew what the win con was, but I was just talking to Christian about it. I couldn't break the draft. Like 1 second or more is actually, you need about 1.5, and Christian never really made a mistake. And like we were talking, I think I was a little faster than him, but I wasn't 2 seconds faster than him a lap, so he was able to close that gap every time. So it became a really intense race of trying to decide if I wanted to let him go in front of me and maybe make a mistake and catch the draft, or if I wanted to try and push the lead and then swerve at the end, which is what I ended up doing.
Yeah, early on, it seemed like, at least with you two, you were both cooperating with each other on the main straightaway. What kind of calculations did you do to ensure that you came out on top of that?
So like I said, towards the end, I was like, do I keep trading or do I start to not play as nice? I decided not to anymore, just because there's a few close moments I had with him, because our lines were, even though we're running the same time, some of our braking zones were a little different. And with that car, if you lock up the fronts, it's kind of game over. And I almost went off into the wall because I kind of checked up one of the fast sections. It was more, once we realized there's no one behind us and no one else to really worry about, I think we realized, what the stakes were, is basically just me versus him. And I was trying to shake him, but at the same time, I was trying not to wreck. So, I gave it my all there.
You left it all on the table right there, and you came out on top. Is there anybody you want to thank at this particular point?
Yeah, just the team, Udox. It was great hanging with them, just comparing sets and talking strats. And then the major series, it's one of my favorites. I always come back to it. There's nothing like it. So this is one of my favorite track car combos so far. But once again, it's time to put the Lotus away for a long time.
Hopefully not too terribly long, it would seem. But appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you driving. Unfortunately, I'm not used to being on this side of the interview. Can I get a little help, Daniel?
Yes, indeed. Well, I'll certainly, we can take things from here and have a quick chat. We'll bring Christian Chalney into the box at the same time as well. And, well, Christian, another strong result on a road course for the major series today. Unfortunately, not quite the W as that goes to Ross, but yeah, the two of you back and forth. Well, at least I was only here for the second half of the race, unfortunately, but back and forth between the two of you all race long, as far as I saw at least.
Yeah, it was absolutely wicked. I mean, honestly, going in with this qualifying time, it was. I even said, I was like, I'd be happy. Like, I'll run third. I'll finish behind him in Tixia, and it'd be good points. I'll take second points. But then I was able to hang on, so I was like, well, I've got to kind of give it a go. And I really wasn't quicker than him at any point, except maybe the very first sector of the track. So yeah, it was just really tough trying to hold on to him. And I kept trying to occasionally get ahead and see if I had anything, and it became pretty clear that over the full lap he was just quicker than I was, but I was able to hold on, so I had to keep trying, and I just thought, if I'm maybe close enough on the last lap, and he kind of pushed the pace as we got closer towards the end of the race, and both of us were making more mistakes, and yeah, I mean, it was just, honestly, it's an amazing win. Like, I really can't say anything else. It was just a fantastic drive by him. No real mistakes at all the whole race, super fast. I mean, it's probably one of the only times I've ever happy to actually not win a race.
That's definitely a novel way to put it, yeah. But I mean, look, yeah, the fact that we could definitely tell the tempo lifted in the last couple of laps. Ross trying to see if he could throw you off with the snaking down the dot, and Joe, see if he could just break the toe at least. And yeah, just watching the way the gaps grew and shrunk, of course, over the course lapping and before the toes started to really kick in down the straight. We noticed a couple of laps before the end, 8/10, Ross was relatively safe, it seems, but you got it down. You was at 7/10 when you started that run on the final lap. Were you thinking at all optimistically when that happened, or were you already consigned to sort of settling for second unless something went horribly wrong for Ross through the last couple of turns?
It kind of depended, right? Because if I was within half, it was definitely on for sure. And 8/10, when he wasn't doing the weaving, I'd been able to kind of close that up and maybe at least apply some pressure. And I kind of tried to leave something in my pocket a little bit for the last sector of the lap. Kind of when I realized that was where he was really a lot better than me. I didn't feel like I was taking as much risk through there, and maybe lap 14 where I nearly fell off, but I was able to get back to him. I really pushed through there just to see if I had more, and I realized I did, but then the problem that came in was I started 15 thinking, okay, so I know I've got more, and I can maybe trick him into thinking he's safe, but actually be right with him. But it went wrong because, like, 3 corners after the carousel, I went slightly too deep and I lost 2/10. And I knew I would just never get it back to him because he was quicker than me through all that bit afterwards. So, yeah, it just ended up being slightly too much. I think maybe if I'd have been those 2/10 closer, then yeah, I would have definitely had a crack at it for sure. It might have been a bit dicey, but I had pretty good confidence in racing against them. I mean, we've been able to go wheel to wheel pretty often before, and we've not had any issues. So yeah, I would have definitely raced him for it, but I wasn't going to do anything really dumb. Like I mean, he was just super quick the whole time. Like he set the pace of the race. He was super fast. You only really got past him when he kind of like wanted you to pass him. I didn't want to do anything that was going to result in him not finishing the race and not winning it, just to try and get one, because it wouldn't have been worth it. I felt like it was, even if I'd have got it, it would have always felt mean because it felt like such a deserved win for him that I didn't really want to take it.
I think definitely great to hear that. I think here today, Christian. And I mean, look, yeah, sometimes we win, sometimes we don't quite get there in the end. But I think glad to hear, really happy with the P2 to wrap things up here today. Major series goes to MTCR at Bathurst next. Get back into some more modern cars, but in some respects, Bathurst, while certainly not as intimidating perhaps scale-wise as the Nordschleife, certainly going to offer up challenges of its own. Just a quick look into the future. Anything in particular about the combination there that you're thinking about at this stage already, or will that be something that will come up for you in due course when we get closer to the race date?
Well, Bathurst is a super wicked track, so always excited to go there. I actually think Bathurst is, You know, I know people think that the Nords is a really difficult track, but the Nords is just mostly very long. Bathurst, I feel, is incredibly demanding as a track, and I actually think it's just in terms of various corners, it's more difficult than Nords. The only thing I don't really like is not really a big fan of front-wheel drive, so won't be my favorite thing. But format was pretty good last year, so I hope it's good again this year. And you know, it was a fun event last time, so yeah, should be a good one.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out on track when the major series rolls around next. Any parting words and thanks you want to give here before we wrap up this one here, Christian?
Yeah, I'd just give a shout out to my other teammates. Austin Peterson, who came home 6th. Tom Abramitis, he was 7th. Christian Abado, he was in 10th. And then Brent Foster in the second split, he managed to come home 6th. I know he wasn't too happy about not making the top split and then had a couple of offs, but you know, still pretty good points day. And really just to everyone who actually completed the race, because that is just a super brutal combination, and to be able to manage that for nearly an hour and 40 is really, really impressive, irrespective of how fast you're going.
I think that's a very good way to put it indeed. Well, Christian Challoner joining us here, second place today in the Major 67 Grand Prix. And I believe we might have to leave it there, Lynn, unfortunately. I certainly know that Jay is a busy man. Technically, I'm a busy man. We're both a little busy tonight. But indeed, that next race coming up, the 4th round of the Major Series of 2024, MTCR at Australia. It'll be Sunday the 14th of April in the morning when that rolls around for us. It'll be nice prime time Saturday the evening on maybe the 13th of April, Jay. Naughty bonk for that one there. But this reminds me, he advised the yeah, that makes sense that it should be April 13. We're not suddenly imparting some black magic to have same date, different days happening there. But that'll be one to look out for, I think that's for sure.
It's going to be a challenging event either way you look at it. I mean, we're going from one strength to another. We go from these crazy long. Yeah, I wasn't driving, and I'm already getting tongue-tied over here. So, anyways, we go for the Nordschleife. We go to the mountain, quite possibly one of the most famous circuits down under, around. And just not only that, you look a little ahead to the future. The Speedway 500 also lurks there. That's another big opportunity for points. But I think we better leave it off there, because otherwise, who knows what's going to happen next.
Without a doubt, yeah, that'll be something to look out for. So, yeah, thank you all for joining us here on SimSpeed TV. Big thanks to Lynn Kinchlow for, having me jump in halfway through. I'm sure apologies from Reese Gardner that he couldn't be with us here, but apparently we'll be ready to go as usual. Just things a little unusual today, as it were. But a big thanks, for watching along with us here. Big thanks to all the drivers, the organisers of the Major Series as well, for putting on this race here for the Pacific Region Round 3 at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And my name's been Daniel Yeaman. On behalf of Lynn Kinchlow and Jay Kennedy here at SimSpeed, thank you all for watching. Hope to see you back for Round 4 at the mountain come April.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Anybody really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.